In order to understand the Scandinavian influence on English, first we have to understand what is the relation between English and the Scandinavian. Okay, especially Old English. Okay, uh, the Old English language was self-sufficing. Okay, its foreign elements were few and did not impinge upon its character. In order to estimate rightly this Scandinavian influence, it is very important to bear in mind the great similarity that existed between the Old English and the Old Norse. ঠিক আছে, ওল্ড ইংলিশ আর ওল্ড নর্সের মধ্যে অনেকটাই সিমিলারিটি দেখা যেত। And what we find over here is that the relations between the two races were not altogether hostile, because what we find over here is that it depends on the bonding, it depends upon the mutual respects that helps in the development of language. And at some times what we find, it also due to the occupation, জোর জার করে অন্যকে রাজত্ব করার ফলেও হচ্ছে কি করা হয়, there are these influences as we have seen in during French influence on English language. Okay, so in case of Old English and Old Norse, between these two races there was mutual respect and regard between the English and the Danes, but there was a basic similarity between the dialects of the English and those of the invaders. The Scandinavians were the invaders. The dialects of whether the Danes, Norwegians, Swedish or Icelanders were actually the members of the Germanic or Teutonic family. Okay, and were descended from the same stock as that of the English. According to Wren, C.L. Wren, that is, one is, and I quote, struck with the completeness with which the Scandinavian words have become one with the English language, and the way they have exactly the same kind of feeling and connotation as words of purely Anglo-Saxon origin. I have told you about the Anglo-Saxon period. Okay, so what we find over here is that এই যে Anglo-Saxon period বা যে Scandinavian origin words, these are of similar feeling, they have a same kind of feeling, same kind of connotation as it is there in the Anglo-Saxon words, and this helped in the acceptance of those words into English language. ঠিক আছে, and what we find over here is that the Scandinavians were by no means superior to the English, though not actually inferior also, in point of culture and civilization, and so the English felt no urge to borrow any particular type of words from them. Okay, this is a psychological fact, or it is a proven fact, that we tend to accept certain things, whether it is the culture or whether it is any kind of word, depending on whether we consider the other culture to be superior to us or not. আমরা তখনই কারোর থেকে কিছু অ্যাকসেপ্ট করতে চাই যখন হচ্ছে অন্য কালচারটাকে সুপিরিয়র বলে মনে করছি, রাইট, which is not the case. Okay, so there is no direct mention of this culture, the Scandinavian culture, to be superior. Okay, and that's why what we find, the English people had no urge to borrow any particular type of word from them. Okay, an enormous number of words were identical in the two languages. For example, nouns like father, mother, wife, man, folk, house, winter, summer, and also verbs like will, can, sit, stand, think, come. Adjectives and adverbs like full, wise, better, best, mine, under, over. All these words have similar kind of this identical. They were identical in both languages. In these two languages, they were identical. But what we still find here is that in some spheres, the influence of the Scandinavian language manifests its presence. Okay, itself it has three directions. The Scandinavian influence has three directions. Number one, in certain place names and proper names. Okay, the first influence that we find in the Scandinavian influence on English language is in the case of the proper names and place names. জায়গার নাম আর কোনো মানুষের নাম বা যে কোনো কিছুর প্রপার নেমে হচ্ছে সেই ইনফ্লুয়েন্সটা আমরা দেখতে পাই। Number 2, in the introduction of new words of Danish and Norwegian origin. And number 3, in modification in respect of grammar and syntax. So the grammatical and syntactical changes or the modifications were introduced due to this Scandinavian influence. Okay, in some cases the Scandinavian influence gave a fresh lease of life to some obsolete native words such as till, dale. Okay, till and dale. And also what we find here is that there is this coexistence of Scandinavian and English words. Okay, the coexistence and the coexistence of the Scandinavian and English word is also quite interesting because of their varying importance in different ages. Okay, so what we generally need to focus over here is that how the Scandinavian influence happened or created their presence in these three forms. Okay, so first of all, if we look into the Scandinavian influence in place names and proper names, we will easily find that certain names of places ending in by, that is hyphen by or hyphen thorp, thorp. Thorp actually meant village, or beck, hyphen beck. Certain places name ends with by, or thorp, or beck, or dale, dale, or thwaite, thwaite. Okay, so thwaite actually means piece of land, or thoft, toft, which actually also means piece of land. These ending shows Scandinavian influences, as these suffixes are not found in English proper. Okay, কি বলতে চাইছি যে কিছু কিছু ওয়ার্ডস, কিছু কিছু প্লেসেস, কিছু কিছু প্রপার নেমসের এন্ডিংয়ে আমরা কি দেখতে পাই বাই, বিওয়াই, অর কি দেখতে পাই থর্প, thorp, ঠিক আছে। থর্প মানে হচ্ছে ভিলেজ, বা বেক, bec, কিছু কিছু ওয়ার্ডের লাস্টে বেক দেখতে পাই, বা থোয়েট, thwaite, বা থফট, toft, বা এরকম আরও যত সমস্ত, ঠিক আছে, এরকম যত সমস্ত ওয়ার্ডস দেখতে পাই, দিজ আর প্রুভস অফ দ্য স্ক্যান্ডিনেভিয়ান ইনফ্লুয়েন্স অ্যাজ সাফিক্সেস। এরা সাফিক্স হিসেবে একটা মেইন ওয়ার্ডের সাথে যুক্ত হয়ে গিয়ে নতুন ওয়ার্ড তৈরি করেছে। These suffixes, these Scandinavian suffixes have been added to the English proper name and they have formed a new word. Okay, because these suffixes are never found in English proper names. Okay, so for example, rugby, 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 Thorsby, Whitby, ঠিক আছে, Goldthorpe, Copperthwaite, Langthwaite, Brimtoft, Langtoft, Northoft বা হচ্ছে Braithwaite, ঠিক আছে, Lowestoft, and several other examples are also there. So all these examples are the examples of Scandinavian influences in the place names and proper names. Okay, all these suffixes have the meaning of village or hamlet, small village that is, and more than 1400 Scandinavian place names have been counted in England, which undoubtedly hints at the great number of the Scandinavian families that settled in English, especially in Norfolk or Suffolk or Lincolnshire, Yorkshire, Northumberland, Cumberland, Westmoreland, and several other places. ওকে, এই সমস্ত জায়গায় হচ্ছে স্ক্যান্ডিনেভিয়ান পিপলরা এসে এস্টাবলিশ হতে থাকে। ওকে, এই সমস্ত জায়গায় যখন এস্টাবলিশ হচ্ছে, হোয়াট দে ডু, দে ব্রিং দেয়ার ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ অ্যালং উইথ দেম। ওকে, যখন হচ্ছে স্ক্যান্ডিনেভিয়ান ইনফ্লুয়েন্স হচ্ছে, ইনভেডার্সরা আসছে, তারা এখানটা ইংল্যান্ডে এসে সেটেল করছে, দে আর সেটলিং ইন ইংল্যান্ড। ওয়েন দ্য স্ক্যান্ডিনেভিয়ান পিপল, দ্য স্ক্যান্ডিনেভিয়ান ইনভেডার্স আর সেটলিং ইন ইংল্যান্ড, in different places of England, what they are bringing with them, they are bringing with them their own language, তার নিজেদের ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজটা তাদের সাথে হচ্ছে নিয়ে আসছে। আর তার ফলে কি হচ্ছে, সেইটাকে নিয়ে আসার ফলে কি হচ্ছে, সেই ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজগুলো কন্টিনিউয়াসলি মিক্স হতে থাকছে। those languages are being mixed with the common native term, common native language of the English people, that is the old English language, and slowly these words, these languages are incorporated within the old English word or old English vocabulary. Clear? Or better to say English vocabulary. সেইটাই হচ্ছে। তাহলে কি এই যে ব্রেইথউইথ শব্দটা, ওয়ার্ডটা হচ্ছে শুনেছো, কারণ একজনের নাম, ঠিক আছে। So what we find here is that several other English persons name, okay, many English persons names were found to have Scandinavian names. Okay, for example, names ending in son, okay, the names which end with son, son, those examples, those names are actually what, those names are actually of Scandinavian origin. ওই নামগুলো স্ক্যান্ডিনেভিয়ান অরিজিন, যে নামগুলো কি সান দিয়ে শেষ হচ্ছে। ফর এক্সাম্পল জনসন, ঠিক আছে, দেন স্টিভেনসন, জেমসন, গিবসন, থমসন। ওকে, all these names which ends with son as a suffix conform to the characteristics of the Scandinavian pattern, which was incorporated within the English language. Okay, the equivalent old English being is ng. Okay, the ending is ng, as we have found in Browning, is also suggestive of the Scandinavian influence. These influences actually enrich the English language. Okay, similarly, when we look into the Scandinavian influence in the sphere of law and war terms, we find several important words from the Scandinavian influence, okay, that has incorporated within the fold. অনেক ওয়ার্ডস যেগুলো হচ্ছে স্ক্যান্ডিনেভিয়ান অরিজিনের, সেইগুলো হচ্ছে এর মধ্যে ইনকর্পোরেটেড হয়েছে, ইংলিশ ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজের মধ্যে ইনকর্পোরেটেড হয়েছে। দো ফ্রেঞ্চ ওয়ার টার্মস আর অফ সুপিরিয়র অরিজিন, French administrative and war terms have influenced the English language quite profusely, but here also what we find, the Scandinavian influence was nothing in a state of backwardness. Okay, so what we find over here is that although the Scandinavians were not much superior to the English in culture and social standards, yet as rulers they tried to impose their own legal system. Okay, and a large number of law terms entered into the English. অবশ্যই যে রাজা হবে, যে হচ্ছে রাজত্ব করবে, সে কি করবে, সে তার নিজের ওয়ার্ডসগুলোকে ইনকর্পোরেট করার চেষ্টা করবে। সেটা ফ্রেঞ্চ ইনফ্লুয়েন্সের সময়ও আমরা দেখেছি। And what we find over here is that this is quite true for Scandinavian influence also. Okay, so বিভিন্ন legal term, several legal terms or the words related to legal system were entered into the English. The word law itself is of Scandinavian origin, as are the other words like outlaw, bylaw, thrall, crave, etc. All these words are of what? All these words are of Scandinavian origin. Okay, all these words are of Scandinavian origin. There are other legal terms like mat, mat, mat. Okay, mat means what? Mat means action at law. Okay, Wapentake, Wapentake. This is an administrative district. Husting, Husting, Husting actually means assembly. Also there is another word, Lahceap or Lahceap, Lahceap. This means payment for re-entry into the lost legal rights. Okay, or Landcheap, that is tax paid when the land was bought. Okay, which gradually became obsolete after the Norman conquest. Okay, that is the French conquest of 1066. The Norman conquest was so much powerful, the French influence was so much powerful, that the English terminology went into a complete remodeling, especially in terms of law and war terms. Okay, in land and sea fight, what we find that the Scandinavians were superior to the English, who borrowed from them few of the words like orrest, ORREST. Okay, orrest actually means battle. Okay, then another word, barda, BARDA. This is also a Scandinavian word which actually meant bigged sheep, BEAKED, bigged sheep. Another word was lip, LIP, lip. Lip actually meant fleet, FLWT. Okay, also there was dreng, DRENG, dreng meant warrior. Batswegen, BATSWEGEN, vegan. Batswegen meant boatman. Okay, Filcian, FYLCIAN. All these words are of Scandinavian origin. Filcian means to collect or marshal a force. Okay, these words are of Scandinavian origin, and it is interesting to note that all these words became obsolete after the Norman conquest. Okay, today these words are hardly used in war or any battle, but as we are learning Scandinavian influence, we need to know these facts, that they actually came into the English language. Okay, Also, when we look into the Scandinavian terms which are related to architecture and cooking, though the Scandinavians were not much superior to the English in culture or the social standards, yet few words, few words related to architecture and cooking were borrowed from the Scandinavian language. Okay, these words were like window, okay, steak, STAK, knife, though its spelling was KNIF, were borrowed from Scandinavian. Stick spelling was STIK, not STAK of present day. Present day spelling is STAK. In those times it was STIK. Then window was the spelling of window was Vindauga, Vindauga. Also, other words like bread and egg that we know today is of Scandinavian origin. Okay, the most interesting fact about this Scandinavian influence is the effects of the collateral existence of the two languages. Okay, the Scandinavian languages existed side by side with the native language, and it is found to have affected English quite conspicuously. In some cases, forms survive in standard speech, though they have developed slightly different meanings. Okay, ওয়ার্ডস গুলো হচ্ছে ডিফারেন্ট মিনিং এ হচ্ছে ইউজ হচ্ছে, যদিও হচ্ছে ওয়ার্ডস গুলো আগে ইউজ হয়েছে, সাম ওয়ার্ডস হ্যাভ বিন used or incorporated into English language, but the meaning has changed. For example, in today's English, whole, WHOLE, okay, its Scandinavian counterpart is hell, HALE. Okay, so hell actually turned into whole, WHOLE. So what we find here is that a certain shift in meaning, slightly different meaning is completely seen over here. Also, today we use no. Today's English word is no, no, right? Its Scandinavian counterpart is nay, NAY. Okay, even today we use nay, but most importantly it was today we use no. Okay, similarly today we use from, FROM. In Scandinavian language it was fro, FRO. From fro it turned to from. Similarly, shriek, SHRIEK is today's English word, but in Scandinavian it was screech, SCREECH. Okay, screech. Similarly, the Scandinavian word was egg, EGG, but today it changed to edge, EDGE. So what we find here is that the meaning is completely different. Okay, similarly the word church, CHURCH, it originates from the Scandinavian word kirk, KIRK. Okay, similarly English churn, 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 the Scandinavian counterpart was corn, KIRN. Similarly, English word dew, its counterpart was dag, Scandinavian counterpart was dag. Okay, also what we find here is that the surviving form is often the native form, as in the goat. Okay, that is, the surviving word that we find is the English form, whereas the Scandinavian word has left its own mark, but the original word that we find today is the English word. Okay, for example, goat, GOAT, goat actually came from the Scandinavian word gate, GAYTE. Similarly, heathen, Heathen, heathen came from Scandinavian word heithen, Heythen. Then loath, Loath, came from laith, Laith. Okay. Also fish, Fish, modern day fish, the word fish in English came from fisk, Fisk. In some cases, what do you see? In some cases, the Scandinavian word succeeds in outseeing the native word. Thus, the Scandinavian egg drives the native a out of use. Okay. For example, what we find, as I have told you also, that the word egg, that is anda, okay, anda, egg, as in the food, is used in the form of the Scandinavian word. Okay, English eta chile I, EY, EY. Okay, but it turned out to be what? It turned out to be the egg that survived. Okay, in the old English period, the English word that was swoster, is WUSTER, its counterpart, its Scandinavian counterpart was sister, SISTER. ঠিক আছে, swoster, it was sister. But what we find today here is that the Scandinavian word actually succeeded. Okay, the Scandinavian word sister actually was able to survive. Okay, similarly, English word was chettle, CHETEL, for the Scandinavian counterpart kettle, KETTLE. And what we find? We find a sister and kettle are now English words, which are a product of the Scandinavian influence. Okay, similarly, yeti, YETE, yeti was the English word, its counterpart, its meaning was get, GET, in Scandinavian. Similarly, Yeve, YEVE, Eve meant give in Scandinavia. The Scandinavian counterpart was give, GIVE. Okay, so what we find here is that give survived, give survived, get survived. Similarly, ift, ift, was the English word and its Scandinavian counterpart was gift, GIFT. Okay, তাহলে কি দেখা যাচ্ছে, y টা actually use হতো for modern day G. Okay, there are also examples in which Scandinavians were able to place words in the disposal of the English. There are several others, I am not going into that. Okay, so the Scandinavian influence on English is well pronounced in every sphere, right? The Danes could never pose to be the rulers of the English. They were rulers, but they had always in mind that the English were their own brethren. Okay, and the two nations soon merged into one. Okay, so Jespersen analyzes the nature of the Scandinavian influence on English, and I quote, an Englishman cannot thrive, be ill, or die without Scandinavian word. They are to the language what bread and eggs to the daily fare, unquote, full stop. Okay, this reveals the democratic nature of the Scandinavian influence on the English language. This person ki assert korche, he asserts that the Scandinavian words have come to be the inseparable parts of the English language. Okay, and are used constantly by the English people in their very ordinary day-to-day affairs, as in bread, egg, even the word death, or dead in English comes from Scandinavian word. Okay, so what we find over here is that that's why Jespersen mentions that he asserts that the Scandinavian words are inseparable to the English language. Okay, he institutes a specific contrast between the Scandinavian word and the Latin or French. In the high or fashionable affair of life, the French or Latin loan words are invariably used by the English, but the situation is reversed in the case of the Scandinavian words, which occur inevitably in the common conversation, okay, or in the dull dialogue of daily life. Okay, so Scandinavian words like thrive, eel, die, bread, and egg are needed equally by the English highmen or lowmen. Okay, English high or low in their day-to-day living. To the Scandinavian influence, the English vocabulary no doubt owes a great deal. The Danish words are profusely present in this vocabulary, but they never look alien or aggressive. ওকে, সেগুলো যেন একসাথে মিশে গেছে। Nouns of the Scandinavian origin, such as husband, fellow, leg, or knife, are all related to the most commonplace actions and objects. মনেই হবে যেন ওটা ইংলিশ ওয়ার্ড, তাই তো? Such technical words have come from the Scandinavia, and they too are quite known and commonly used in the legal, political, courtly or military matters. So what we find over here is that it is clearly evident that the Scandinavian words are intimately fused with the English life and obviously the activities, and they have remained the part and parcel of the English common vocabulary. Okay, in the daily fare of food and health, life and death, an Englishman can hardly miss the Scandinavian words that are existing in the English vocabulary. So what we find over here is that this Scandinavian influence leaves a deep imprint into the English society, which has become a part of the English vocabulary and livelihood and conversation. Okay, that's it.